Hi everyone, I'm Carlos Perez with the Department of Psychology and Counseling. I want to take just a few minutes to talk about some really important things I've been thinking about and that I've been living through over the past few months. These are some really interesting, maybe even some really challenging times that we're living in. I don't know about you, but the way I've done work, the way I've done family life has all changed. And I've had to really work hard at doing both of those, sometimes well, sometimes not so well. The balance of those two, however, has been such an interesting, challenging part of my life, and I can't imagine what everyone else is experiencing. So I want to take just a few minutes to talk about how I've been doing that and how I've been living through that challenge and that time of transition and how I'm balancing everything that I have to balance right now. You see, my background is in therapy, and so I'm always thinking about relationships, whether that's relationships at work, with my spouse, with my son. I'm always thinking about the world in relationships. And the way I've managed those has significantly changed over the past couple of months. So I want to just say a few things about what I think is important in handling these times of transition and everything that we have to balance and juggle in our lives. First thing I want to say, one of the most important things that we can do, whether it's in our jobs, whether it's in our marriages, in our family lives, one of the most important things we can do is think about how we are flexible and how we can be adjusting. That might sound easy or that might sound simple in theory, but that's actually a really profound thought if you think about it. You see, what we do at work, what we do at home, that has all changed over the past couple of months. And one of the biggest things I think that makes change a lot easier is our ability to be flexible and to adjust. It's easy to adjust, for example, to weather. We can put on jackets, we can put on warmer clothes. We can adjust those kinds of things. But when it comes to changes in our lives, that's a little bit harder. When it comes to our jobs, our marriages, adjusting is really, really important. Change is inevitable. Change is constant. We're always going to be encountering change. Even if the COVID crisis wasn't here, there would still be changes that we would have to face. These are extreme changes and these are extreme challenges, which makes adjusting and being flexible that much more important. Let me get a little bit more specific though. You might be asking, what does that mean? What does that look like to be adjusting and to be flexible? Well, let me spend a couple of minutes talking about that. Second point. Yes, if we're going to be adjusting, if we're going to be flexible, it's very important through times of change. One specific thing we can do, though, in adjusting and being flexible is to think about our role changes. How we change our roles during these times of transition. Let me just give you one example. There are lots of things I can say here, but let me just give you one example. As spouses, as a husband, I carry certain roles and I fulfill certain roles to make sure my wife and I have a good relationship, to make sure our family life runs smoothly. I can do X, Y, and Z, and that means I'm fulfilling my role as a husband. I can do X, Y, and Z, and that means I'm fulfilling my role as a father. Those roles, however, I think, and feel free to disagree with me, but I really think during these times of change and crisis, those roles need to be adjusted and they need to be flexible. I don't know what that means for you or what that looks like for you, but if we are going to change our roles as spouses, as fathers, as mothers, as co-workers, we need to think about how we do that in proximity to our spouse. And this is just a generic example, so feel free to laugh at this. If that means washing more dishes, if that means putting the children to bed, if that means working more or working less, whatever that means to you, our roles as spouses during these big times of change and challenge, I do think they need to be readjusted. I do think they need to change along with these bigger changes. We cannot continue living the way we lived before COVID. We cannot continue in our usual roles and get on the other side of this successfully. Maybe some of us can. Maybe some of you, this hasn't impacted your lives very much at all. Great. I don't know, but I'm speaking for myself here. our lives have been significantly changed. Our balance has significantly changed. Therefore, my roles need to that much more be in adjustment and change. You see, one of the things to being in a marriage and any relationship, one of the things to being in a relationship, and specifically a marriage, is how we adjust and how we accommodate to our partners. For those of you who have children at home, their world is also completely upside down. Their normal, their routine is far, far from what they're used to, and therefore ours too. I'm going to tell you something. Here's some advice for free. I'm going to tell you something that I tell people that I work with when it comes to challenges of change. In any group of people, whether it's a family, whether it's your coworkers, or even bigger entities like government or bigger agencies, if change is going to successfully happen, change has to go from the top down. It absolutely has to go from the top down. And it has to be effectively done from the top down. If we're thinking about families, change starts with parents. If we're thinking about coworkers, change starts with our superiors. Change always comes from top down. And that's why the roles of a spouse, of a coworker, are that much more important if we're thinking about adjusting to these times of change. Because that level of the top down really needs to be in place before the rest of our group of people, the rest of our families, the rest of our coworkers can also successfully adapt to that change. Let me say one more thing. Yes, we need to adjust. Yes, we need to be flexible. Yes, we need to think about our roles, and we need to think about our roles in proximity to everyone we're around. That's tough. That's tough. I'm going to say something that I hope really resonates with you. I find this kind of message to be very important to me. Changing roles, being flexible is not easy. These times that we're living in are not easy. If you are facing a big challenge right now, and if you're struggling with this challenge right now, that's okay. I think that's okay. These are not normal times. These are not simple times. To be struggling, I think, is inevitable. Now, if some of you, if your lives haven't changed, if your life is the same, and this is not a challenge for you, great. That is absolutely awesome. But for everyone else who might go through this and to might think this is a challenge, this is a struggle, this is hard, I think that's okay. I think, I can say this, I'm a therapist. We're allowed to think that. And we're allowed to think, wow, this is hard. Wow, this is a struggle. Let me give you a little bit of therapy advice. If we don't talk about what we're experiencing, if we keep it inside, if we don't share it, that does no one any good. You might be thinking, that's great. Now we have to start talking about feelings. Not necessarily. We don't have to go there. But if we're struggling, even to say, goodness, this is a struggle. Goodness, this is a hard challenge. That is a great start. That is a great point of sharing between anyone, spouses, coworkers, whoever. I think we are allowed to say those kinds of things, especially right now, during these times of challenge and stress and crisis. So if you're struggling, it's okay. It's okay to struggle. But that's why I think who we are as spouses and who we are as coworkers and who we are in our roles is that much more important to think about. So let me give you a little bit of encouragement. This is what I tell my wife all the time, so I hope this resonates with you too. We're doing it. We're doing it. This might not be easy. This might not be fun. This might be a really hard challenge and a balance and being adjusting and flexible. But hey, we're doing it. We're doing it. I don't know if that helps. I hope it does. But I'm going to speak for the LCU community. LCU is here for you. Thanks.